How much time needs to pass before grave robbing turns into archaeology? Like 20 minutes. Please Google Kennewick Man. Could be thousands of years depending on the relatives. If you're opening the grave to make money, you're a grave robber. If you're spending money to open it, you're an archaeologist. In North America, archaeologists have to be extremely careful with any kind of Native American burial. Nowadays it's more and more common that archaeologists might get a chance to look at a burial, but they put it back in place as best as they can when they're done. So they study the burial but take nothing from it. This is because the living ancestors of these ancient people still like to honor their dead. There's also a methodology component to it, regardless of the age of the remains. If I womble up with a metal detector, dig a hole and yoink out anything of value, that's grave robbing. If I fight for months for planning approval, record every detail of the site in obsessive detail, then refill any holes carefully when the funding has run out even though there's still more to discover, that's archaeology. Plus, archaeology's not just graves. I actually had to look this up once for reasons. It's 100 years or when the deceased has no remaining living relatives, whichever comes first. I guess you can say the answer. Underscore. Underscore. Greater than. Underscore. Is buried somewhere in this thread. I think the grave could be thousands of years old. It's still grave robbing if you're doing it to sell and for wealth and not under strict guided scientific theory. Like there's a big problem in Africa and the Middle East and even China where dudes dig up old graves with bulldozers and just sell that shit. I'd call them grave robbers. Back in the 19th century, archaeologists were just glorified grave robbers taking Egyptian artifacts back to their European museums. It isn't time, it is intent. Grave robbing is to plunder the grave for valuables. Excavating an archaeological site is to learn. As an archaeologist, I think this is a very weird question. I usually wait for the family to leave until all the living relatives at the time of death are dead. But then there's the obvious problem of only children with no children themselves with few relatives, so IDK. It's not a question of time, but rather a question of hats. You could also be a grave robber of prehistoric artifacts. Archaeology is dedicated to preserving the finds and putting them into the right historical context. Grave robbers just want money. Depends how many guns the people who have a problem with it have.